Canto 10, Chapter 8. Here we go. Is it text 42? 42? This is Mother Yasoda processing the opulence of Krishna, and she's concluded all of this has happened by some special power of Lord Narayan invested in her son, and she's now detaching herself from the material conceptions of herself. It is by the influence of the Supreme Lord's Maya that I am wrongly thinking that Nanda Maharaj is my husband, that Krishna is my son, and that because I'm the queen of Nanda Maharaj, all the wealth of cows and calves are my possessions. And all the cowherd men and their wives are my subjects. Actually, I am also eternally subordinate to the Supreme Lord. He is my ultimate shelter. Did we read this or no? No? Okay. BBT Prabhupada's purport. Following in the footsteps of Mother Yashoda, everyone should follow this mentality of renunciation. Whatever wealth, opulence, or whatever else we may possess belongs not to us, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate shelter of everyone and the ultimate owner of everything, as stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 5.29. Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheswaram suradam sarvabhutanam gyatvam shantim richati. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. We should not be proud of our possessions, as expressed by Mother Yashoda herein. I am not the owner of possessions, the opulent wife of Nanda Maharaj. The estate, the possessions, the cows and calves, and the subjects like the gopis and cowherd men are all given to me. Unquote. One should give up thinking of my possessions, my son, my husband, Janasya Moho Yamaham Ameti, 5.5.8 Bhagavatam. Nothing belongs to anyone but the Supreme Lord. Only because of illusion do we wrongly think, I'm existing, or everything belongs to me. Thus, Mother Yashoda completely surrendered under the Supreme Lord. For the moment, she was rather disappointed, thinking, my endeavors to protect my son by charity and other auspicious activities are useless. The Supreme Lord has given me many things, but unless he takes charge of everything, there is no assurance of protection. I must therefore ultimately seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unquote. As stated by Prahlad Maharaj 7.9.19, Balashaneha Sharanam Pitarao Nishingha. A father and mother cannot ultimately take care of their children. Ato griha kshetra sutapta vittayar janasya moho yam aham mameti. 5.5.8. One's land, home, wealth, and all of one's possessions belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although we wrongly think, I am this, and these things are mine. Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's commentary. Quote, the Lord is my son's maintainer and protector. If that is so, then what is the use of my ignorant conception of I and mine?" Unquote. Giving up her false conceptions and surrendering to the Lord, Yashoda speaks. "I think that I am the protector of Nanda's wealth. I think that I am the queen of all the cowherd men and women and the cows. I think that I am the mother of this child, who is the life of the residents of Braja. I am his nourisher, and by worshipping the Devas and Brahmanas, through meditation and charities, by daily worship of Vishnu, I by myself can give protection to my son. This is all misconception. As all of the Vraja's wealth is given by the mercy of Vishnu, I should not be proud. Similarly, since by his mercy the child was protected at every moment from the demons like Putana, I should not think that I, as a mother among the common cowherds with impure sentiments, am his protector." Unquote. This type of logic is temporary, not permanent in Yashoda. It is similar to the temporary desire of the confirmed materialist to give up wife and family because of some temporary spiritual urge. Jiva Goswami writes, short, "Therefore I surrender to him." Examining her external conditions, she strengthens her belief about her natural position in 3 lines. In the 4th line, she examines her internal position and, in fear, surrenders to the Lord. "I see my son as high or low because of my bad intelligence, kumati, caused by the Lord's inconceivable maya. Therefore I should surrender to him, since I have no bhakti." Or, "If I am in illusion, I must surrender to him." All her words, by astonishment and other emotions, simply nourish her prema, just as everything turns salty by being in the ocean. Jiva Goswami. And Sanatana Goswami. It's pretty much, it's Jiva Goswami's commentary, one of his commentaries. There's several, but one of the commentaries is a commentary on Sanatana Goswami's commentary, and another is his own commentary. So one is Krama Sandarbha, another is Vaishnava Toshini commentary, because Vaishnava Toshini is Sanatana Goswami's commentary. That's a detail. If you see more than one, that's the commentary by Jiva Goswami, that's the reason. Sanatana Goswami writes, "All her knowledge has been created by the Lord's Maya. After confirming his powers, she surrendered to the Lord to destroy her illusion. Considering the real truth, all relationships are temporary. Understanding these relationships were false, she indicated her foolishness. Kumati. Rejecting the 3 options, starting with a dream, she accepted the 4th. But then, to destroy that idea, she surrendered to the Lord of the universe. By directly perceiving relations, the first 3 options, again, dream, devata's illusion, and bewilderment of intelligence, are discarded. Thinking him to be the Supreme Lord with the universe within him, which is the 4th option, is also illusion. That is my bad thought. The Lord is my goal. The Lord should remove this bad thought and confirm Krishna is my son. So here's Krama Sandarbha. Krama Sandarbha is the same word Sandarbha is used, but it's not part of the six. It's a commentary on all the verses of the entire Bhagavatam, sequentially. So here's his Krama Sandarbha commentary. It is by the influence of the Supreme Lord's Maya that I wrongly think that Nanda Maharaj is my husband, that Krishna is my son, and that because I am the queen of Nanda Maharaj, all the wealth of cows and calves are my possessions, and all the cowherd men and their wives are my subjects, therefore I surrender unto him. By the Lord's Maya, I think that my son is the universal form. Jiva Goswami. Text 43. It starts, Ittam Viditta Tatvagyam. Mother Yashoda, by the grace of the Lord, could understand the real truth. But then again, the Supreme Master, by influence of the internal potency, Yogamaya, inspired her to become absorbed in intense material affection for her son. Purport. Although Mother Yashoda understood the whole philosophy of life, at the next moment she was overwhelmed by affection for her son, by the influence of Yogamaya. Unless she took care of her son, Krishna, she thought, how could he be protected? She could not think otherwise. And thus she forgot all her philosophical speculations. This forgetfulness is described by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as being inspired by the influence of Yogamaya, or Mohana Sadharmyan Mayam. Materialistic persons are captivated by Mahamaya, whereas devotees, by the arrangement of the spiritual energy, are captivated by Yogamaya. Here's Vishwanath's commentary. Discerning the truth in this way, that's the first line, Ittam Viditta Tatvayam. Discerning the truth in this way, she desired to give up her sense of possessiveness. But then the Lord, as a small boy, thought, who will cuddle me? Who will hold me? When he thought in this way, the very form of affection for her son overcame Mother Yashoda. Mayi, in the phrase, in this verse, gives the meaning of affection itself. Prema, in the form of paternal affection or maternal affection. Maya here indicates bewilderment. Yashoda became blinded by prema. Jiva Goswami writes, seeing her conviction, the Lord was pleased. But seeing her agitation, he became upset and then filled her with love. When she who protected her son by her motherly love had understood the truth mentioned in the first 3 lines of the previous verse for the purposes of Krishna's pastimes, the Lord, who is capable of fulfilling her prayers, spread his mercy to her even more than previously, so that she would no longer see this vision which was contrary to her love. This mercy was filled with deep affection for her son. That affection was deeper than any other person's affection. This was not material affection, but rather the Sarup Shakti of Vishnu. Sanatana Goswami writes, a bit longer, Krishna did as she desired. Sukadev calls her Gopi Kayam, or the wife of the cowherd, out of prema. Out of respect, he calls her the queen, the protector of the earth, Gopika. She was the protector of the happiness of Krishna's various pastimes. By her nature of being a cowherd, she was endowed with the power to spread great affection. Thus, Krishna spread his Maya, which followed his desire in a special way. Since this Maya was related to Vishnu, it could enter everywhere immediately. It could create a relationship with Vishnu. It was not inferior, but eternity, knowledge, and bliss, Shakti. Paragraph. Not only did this Maya create a relationship, but produce special bhakti. It was filled with affection of thinking Krishna as her son. Putra Sneha Mayim. Mayim means full, or the very form, quote, even if one knows the truth, such bhakti is hard to attain. Krishna was capable of doing anything. And that bhakti is not temporary like knowledge of the truth. Krishna is all-pervading, vibhu, and his Shakti is also all-pervading. Thus, the affection is continuous, and thus it is said that he spread this Maya. And thus, knowledge of the truth produced by seeing the universal form which obstructs bhakti did not occur in her again. So the universal form, he's indicating that's what she saw within Krishna's mouth. So that produced a certain set of emotions and contemplations. And now he says, she didn't see it again. She's now, I'll read the sentence. The affection is continuous, and thus it is said that he spread this Maya. Thus, knowledge of the truth produced by seeing the universal form, which obstructs bhakti, did not occur in her again. Okay. I think I'll just go to the next. This is very involved. This is, someone did some research where this verse is referred to elsewhere. Here's one of those. It's short. This is Krishna Sandarbha. Jiva Goswami refers to this verse and the previous verses. Krishna Sandarbha. It begins. Appearing as angsas previously, you concentrated only on me. He quotes 10.3.39. 10.3.39. You had no desire for material objects and were without children. Though qualified, you did not ask for liberation from me, since you were bewildered by my mercy. Deva Maya means, quote, by my Shakti composed of affection for me, since that is explained in relation to Yashoda's affection, which is also called Maya. And that now makes the reference to this verse. When Yashoda understood the truth, the Supreme Master, by the influence of the internal potency, spread mercy by having her develop the deepest affection for her son. Or Maya can mean mercy, which causes such affection. The dictionary Vishwaprakash says that Maya means mercy and illusion. By that prema does one does not want, by that prema one does not want liberation at all, even if there's a reason for giving it. The word ajushta means they had no desire for material objects. The Lord speaks to the couple. That's in chapter 3, that's Krishna speaking that in your previous life you were Sutapan Prishni, you underwent austerities, you desired me as your son, etc., etc. That's the context. So it goes on, but I think I'm going to end there. Pages and pages and pages. No, not so much. I'll go ahead for tomorrow morning. We'll see, maybe we'll continue with text 44. I'll just read the verse and we'll go there tomorrow. Immediately forgetting Yogamaya's illusion that Krishna had shown the universal form within his mouth, Mother Yashoda took her son on her lap, as before, feeling increased affection in her heart for her transcendental child. In other words, one of the features of this pastime is nourishing Mother Jasoda's spontaneous affection. And that was accomplished, mission accomplished. Because she'd just been through this circle of seeing something, not understanding what just happened, speculating, reaching a conclusion that her son, either Sanatana Goswami likes the idea her son was Narayan, other acharyas, he was exhibiting powers of Narayan, just as Gargamuni said. Whatever, he's an instrument for divinity or he's divinity. And then she rejects that because mission accomplished. Krishna wants her affection as mother, and her affection as mother is increased by this whole experience. When there's turmoil, our common experiences, when there's something unexpected and there's turmoil, passing through the turmoil is difficult. And on the other side, there's a lot of cleansing that has taken place, and the connection with the personality of Godhead is now clearer and stronger. The signal is clearer and stronger. So her maternal affection is being ramped up, amplified by this experience. This is chapter 8. In chapter 9, that's the Damodar Lila. And the commentary by our acharyas explain that Krishna enjoys the reprimand of Mother Yashoda. Now, most children don't. But he did something, whether he ate dirt or didn't eat dirt, there's differences. Some say, acharyas say he did, some say he didn't. And one of those acharyas speaks that he wanted to experience the whole of Vraja, which is within every particle of dust. So that's what he ingested, and that's what Mother Jasoda saw. And he was enjoying. So one set of commentators say he actually ate dirt. And whether he actually ate dirt or not, because there are differences of view, what he wanted was Mother Jasoda's scolding. The parental affection of a child being scolded by mother. He's the personality of Godhead. But whatever exists in this world exists within him. And he has such feelings he likes. So he did something so that she would scold him. And it started as scolding, but then it ended up getting bewildered. Because there was multiple purposes. The way that Krishna's pastimes move is sometimes described as like the movements of waves in a river. A river is continually flowing to the sea, and sometimes a wave will rise, and it'll stay up for some time. Another wave will come along and collide with that wave, and then that wave subsides, and it's just the river's waves keep moving. So the pastimes of Krishna similarly keep moving. And there are various devotees that assist, just like we discussed yesterday. Purnamasi and Vrindadevi, they're in cahoots. They make plans, but ultimately their plan is Krishna's plan. In each day, they'd make a plan, and the commander-in-chief, Vrindadevi, would make all the practical arrangements for that plan down to detail. So Krishna wanted to enjoy. Not once upon a time, but Krishna is always wanting. And Mother Jasoda, the love of Mother Jasoda was very, very integral. As from our side, there's rasa, but it's because there's rasa within Krishna. Therefore, there's rasa within us. And there's varieties of rasa and then subcategories and so forth. So the parental effect, Mother Jasoda, she went through several stages of ecstasy. Each of these things that she expressed, she's not just a mundane person speculating. She's experiencing an ecstasy and another ecstasy and another ecstasy, and then concluding he's of divinity, or he is divinity, he is the supreme. And then, voila, it changes back to her affection. Now, there was an unfulfilled desire from Krishna's side. He wanted her to chastise him. So the next chapter is he did something that resulted in her chastising him. Binding Krishna with a rope. Because this one is he didn't, whether he ate dirt or not, it's not the same as stealing. Now, from a mother's perspective, which one is worse? My son ate dirt or my son stole? But he stole because she'll reprimand me. And then comes another very interesting dimension. Another very interesting dimension is what Krishna felt when she was wanting to reprimand him. And it's contradictory. I'm preparing a presentation for the Chinese devotees on chapter 77, Canto 10. It's what, the specific reference is Shalva. When Shalva, being humiliated by the Vrishnis, wanted to get back, so he underwent severe austerities to please Lord Shiva, worshipped Lord Shiva, and ate dust only for 1 year. Jiva Goswami comments, his austerity was ridiculous. But the others have done similar things. Others have done similar things. Eating rust for 3 years. It's another austerity that's found in the Bhagavatam. Huh? You get sufficient iron. We would die. But, anyway. So, Shalva got a benediction from Lord Shiva that his get-back intention was he would then have a craft, like a ship, an aerial ship, an airplane that could fly in the sky and have these qualities, those qualities, and the other qualities, and couldn't be shot down, couldn't this and couldn't that and the other thing, and would bring terror to the Vrishnis. Lord Shiva consented, requested Mayadanava to prepare. He prepared, made of iron but could disappear and move at will, and something very similar to Kuvera's craft, that Pushpaka Vimana, that Ravana usurped from his brother. Anyway, it's very similar, but could disappear and then appear and so forth and so on. And then he attacked Dwarka. Krishna wasn't in Dwarka at the time that he attacked. He arrived in the course of the attack, and Krishna then, started dealing very severely with Shalva and his craft and his followers. And they were being smashed and killed. And so the airplane disappeared. First, as he was heading back to Dwarka, he saw omens and was a little worried. So that's, he's omniscient, he doesn't need omens. Then Shalva disappeared when he was getting smashed, and then this unknown person appeared conveying a message from Vasudeva that Vasudev's head had been cut off, was going to be cut off. And then this apparition that looked just like Vasudeva, this person cut off Vasudev's head right in front of Krishna. And he started lamenting and carrying on like, a worldly person might when they see their father being killed. And then poof, the whole thing disappeared. So there's lots of commentary on that pastime, including Shukadeva Goswami saying these things didn't really happen. There are some people that said these things happened, that Krishna became disturbed, etc. I mean, it's very interesting. But the commentary gives lists of circumstances where, like Krishna's running from Mother Jasoda, Krishna's crying when he's caught from behind, and tears, and the mascara running down his cheeks, and trembling in fear. That's not Krishna. So what is it? And it's, there's a number of, another example is Krishna being bewildered when the cowherd boys entered the mouth of Aghasura, and he didn't want them to enter. And he's all powerful. He just wants something. It happens. They entered the mouth of Aghasura, and he was astonished. So etc. etc. So our acharyas amply describe this is we commonly in ISKCON we say Yogamaya potency. Often our acharyas say Lila Shakti. But it's the influence of his own internal potency acting so he can experience different emotions and relish them. And then in the next moment, that wave subsides and everything's normal again. When he sees the cowherd boys enter into the cave, the verse says he marvels at his own potency to see how his own potency is acting, not obliging his desire, doing something contrary to his desire, marveling at his own Lila Shakti. How wonderful my potency is. As if not under his control. And then the next moment, he knows exactly what to do, and he does what he does, and it's a river that's flowing. And often it's acting on others, and in some cases it's acting on him, in some cases it's even acting on Balaram. Like for the whole year that the Krishna had manifested as calves and cowherd boys. Balaram didn't know. Towards the end of the year, he started to figure it out. Hey. And so forth. So the Yogamaya is very magical. Now, supposing you're like a scholar, or an atheist, and like what's going on, and you people are silly. You just like have this brush that paints everything silly, and you're silly. Let's get real. It's just fanciful stories, and at best, it's meant to teach us some lessons, but it's not really anything more than a fanciful story. In other words, denying that the way to understand is Krishna has unlimited and inconceivable potencies. The way to not understand it, to think he's one of us, or just a mythical character, not even one of us. So the Bhagavatam, in general, is taking us by the hand and leading us to understanding Krishna's janma and his activities, janma karma chame divyam. And through the assistance of our acharyas, we get a better picture of what the Bhagavatam is teaching us. Or say, without the commentary of our acharyas, we wouldn't understand. I'll end with a little Prabhupada story. In 1970, Prabhupada established ISKCON Press. And ISKCON Press at that time was a printing press that was like Bhaktisiddhanta had done. He had a number of printing presses in India. So Prabhupada had the devotees buy a printing press. And Advaita Prabhu was put in charge of the printing press. And he'd never run a printing press, but he was a practical-minded, mechanical-oriented type of person. He understood mechanics, so he learned and started running the press. He didn't really know what he was doing, so they got somebody else that knew what they were doing. But when he was running the press, he told me that he asked Prabhupada, is it okay from our press that we print a little pocket Bhagavad Gita? You can just put it in your pocket, literally, and just pull it out from time to time, look at the verses, put it back in your pocket, and this way learn the verses. Prabhupada said no. And his reason, now there is such a thing, just verses, but he said there are many commentaries, there are many translations of Bhagavad Gita, and the differences of the translations of Bhagavad Gita is not so much in the verses, but it's the commentary. And the commentary enables the person to understand the verses which otherwise they won't understand. or they'll misunderstand because they have the wrong commentary. So he disapproved. That is to say, the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita, what to speak of Srimad Bhagavatam, is made possible through commentary. Now, what to do? There are people that read the Bhagavatam without commentary. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur received a copy of the Bhagavatam, is without commentary. I know somebody who grew up in India. They came to America to do their studies. They got married. They came in contact with Krishna consciousness. They started practicing Krishna consciousness. And then when they went back to India, they wanted to gift their grandmother Srimad Bhagavatam in her mother tongue. It was in Kerala. And so the grandmother started reading the Bhagavatam and said to her granddaughter, my whole life, for some 40, 50 years, adult life, I've been reading Bhagavatam every day, as you know. That's why you gave me this copy. But I never really understood it. I had faith in it, but I never really understood it. And now from reading this Bhaktivedanta purports, it's very clear. Now I can understand what I'm reading. So there's punya tendency in such a lady, but that's not sufficient. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient. So together with the Bhaktivedanta purports then becomes possible. Imagine what that experience is like, 40 years, 50 years, whatever the number of years, doing something every day and you don't really understand, it's just faithful, and then all of a sudden here comes something, you can understand it. Pretty amazing. So we want to understand the nature of Krishna and his loving exchanges with his devotees. And even Krishna may become bewildered by his own potencies for his pleasure, and then get unbewildered in the next moment. He doesn't stay bewildered. See if there's some discussion.
Okay, thanks. Maharaj, just on this, I have a few things, but just on this last message, how the punya tendency isn't sufficient to understand Krishna. The purport's necessary. So the reason the purport makes the difference is because it's the devotee. Or I'm just thinking, like, one doesn't have to be like an intellectual who understands everything to, you know what I mean? Like, not everybody gets, it's not an academic exercise. It's like what's coming from the purport is Prabhupada and his devotion, right?
Yes.
So
it's bhakti, it's not gyan.
Because the Bhagavatam is also coming from Shukadev Goswami.
Yes.
So I was just like, wait, what? Is it that we'll misunderstand and misinterpret?
Yes. Yes. I mean, just take this practical example. Pious, more than pious, very devoted lady. Very devoted lady. Through the mercy of Guru, one gets the mercy of Krishna. Shukadev Goswami is a devotee. Vyasadeva is a devotee. Why not get the mercy just from Shukadev Goswami and Vyasadeva? What's the problem? It's meant to be, the mercy is meant to be received in this manner. So it's not that, there was zero benefit for this, particular person, or any person that just reads verses, reads Bhagavad Gita verses, Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita verses, Krishna speaking it, Sanjaya is narrating it. There's devotees involved, so we won't have the proper understanding. It's meant to be conveyed through persons, through devotees, and it's a symptom of one who is a devotee to be very open to receive Krishna's mercy through the devotee. Want me to say something more on that, or you're okay?
No, it's all right. It makes sense to me.
But
I think I just don't understand what the hesitation or like the confusion is.
well, I'll give another example. Somebody wrote me from someplace outside this country. They have a large house, or a house big enough that they have a house guest that's been staying with them for some months. And this person, this devotee wrote, this person claims that he has realized his siddhadeya and his spiritual service in relation to Krishna, and his blah, 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 and he's not initiated, you don't need a guru. Then his question was, not like, is this person for real? His question was, how do you know what are the symptoms or characteristics of someone who actually has that realization? And a short one is, the first thing is, those things do not come without connection with Guru. So you can have a relationship with Krishna and whatever it is, read books and chant and something, whatever got him to the point where he's thinking he knows his spiritual identity. But for starters, how many times have you heard? Many times. From Adi Purana, Krishna says, one who claims to be my devotee is not my devotee. And one to the devotee of my devotee, that's my devotee.
I had some thoughts.
It's Krishna's mercy comes in that manner, and not otherwise. One who claims to be my devotee, that's nice. He's not my devotee. So the point of time may come, as it did with this lady from Kerala, that she had then the association of a devotee. Now, somebody translated Bhagavatam into some language, and perhaps it was a devotee. Now, perhaps it wasn't a devotee, but somebody that had Sanskrit knowledge and could translate from Sanskrit to Kerala, and just printed the text from Shukadeva Goswami through the medium of whoever did the translation.
So I was thinking that I wasn't questioning the guru relationship, but so something came to mind while you were speaking is, somebody is in the disciplic succession and they devote themselves in their lives and they make an attempt to follow the instructions. Prabhupada wants us to read and understand through his purports, but if they don't finish reading all the purports, for example, or if they, what I was thinking is it seems we're limiting the process if it's dependent on reading, I guess, in general, or like.
But the reading is not intellectual. It's if it's intellectual alone, then it's not. There isn't going to be realization. There's benefit. If their intellectual approach with the Bhaktivedanta purports, it's beneficial, but it's limiting. And the realization comes when I'm seeking to nourish my bhakti. Then knowledge will be there and understanding will be there, as well as bhakti, because that bhakti awakens knowledge, not intellect. It's not an intellectual exercise. I mean, it can stay largely on that platform, but that's not the intention behind Prabhupada wanting so many books. I mean, his lectures, so many books. Why did he undergo the trouble? In one sense, to convince people who are intellectually oriented, look at all this knowledge. But then, it really is the bhakti. And profusely. If we can, on the other hand, supposing you understand only one verse, perfection possible? Yes. It's not volumes. It's bhakti. And realize even one verse is not ordinary. Its quality is not volume. But repetition, hearing things again and again, helps for those of us that are covered.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Maharaj, in the purport, Mother Yashoda thinks that I am not the owner of the possessions. And also in the purport, they say that one should give up thinking of my possessions, my son, my husband. Nothing belongs to anyone but the Supreme. So I just was thinking at least from my point of view, when I feel it is mine, or when I have that attachment, I can do more. But how do I come out of to the service mode, or is that to have that attachment is good?
It's mercy. Queen Kunti's prayers answers your question. I'll remind you. You know, but I'll just remind you. She prays to Krishna, please remove my attachment for my sons and the Vrishnis, because they're her family, parents, and over here are her children. She's not saying, I want to become a cold person. That's not her prayer. I just anesthetize my feelings. That's not her prayer. That's not Kunti. But the material portion. So please, you take shelter of Krishna so that the material affinity connected to attachment is lifted, leaving the spiritual affinity. And with spiritual affinity, there's attachment. There's a nice Sanskrit word, mamata. Krishna, I am yours, and you are mine. So the I and mine features of consciousness are there in the spiritual realm. So my fill in the blank is actually Krishna's, and Krishna, you are mine. So then my paraphernalia and my husband and my son, they're Krishna's. Let my affinity go to Krishna. Let the material portion, please take the material portion away. That is to say, my service to my husband and my son is my service to Krishna. Is Krishna's to be pleased. So there's affinity for stuff, the mind, but it's Krishna's at the center. Krishna's at the center can be, padded with other, or Krishna at the center can be just Krishna's at the center. And it's just pleasing Krishna.
I never thought that even in the spiritual conception, that affection,
Oh yeah, attachment for sure. For sure. and in the sense of possessiveness. But it's not material. I mean, spiritual is not material. There is there's something here because there's something there. The something that's there is your relationship with Krishna is your possessiveness. Now, here's a living entity, my son, my husband, they're Krishna's parts and parcels. I'm possessive with the material conception. So we're not there yet. We have material affinity and kind of like dovetail the material affinity with spiritual affinity. Queen Kunti is praying, please remove the material affinity portion. She has affection for her sons. And, they're nice devotees. They're dear to Krishna.
Thank you.
Maharaj, I have a question.
Okay.
I was very inspired by the story that you narrated regarding George Harrison when some burglars were.
Yeah.
And I was very inspired by the part where he took shelter under Krishna's name. My question, though, it's a how-to question, is how do I make that choice to take shelter under the holy name as a first choice always?
It's a matter of heart. How do you get to the heart? Because we're used to the head or the senses. You cultivate the heart. And it starts with chanting from the heart. And over to Uma's question, hearing from the heart. The purpose of Prabhupada's reaching out through so much labor to provide Bhaktivedanta purports abundantly is he wanted people to be happy. And it's not the material idea of happy. It's not the material idea of wanting something for someone. Genuine happiness is not material. And he wanted that. So that was the consciousness of the creator of the Bhaktivedanta purports. So back to the how to read and chant from the heart. The head is operating, the senses are operating. You don't shut them off, but you move to the heart. It's just say, Krishna is to be pleased. You can chant dutifully, and you can chant where it's actually shelter, and actual shelter means Krishna is everything for me. Anyway, and when that is the kind of chanting, that's the kind of hearing or reading that one is doing, that's how you can get to that. That's the how-to. You cultivate bhakti by those activities. Worship, chanting, hearing the scripture, serving the devotees, with the bhakti principle in mind, that Krishna is to be pleased. This will help more than anything else, one of the other 64 things. These things will help nourish, awaken the bhakti that's there within me, and cleanse away the other things. There's effort to cleanse away the other things. But it's resting upon bhakti life, bhakti practices. Anyway, so it's the how-to. Online?
There are no questions online.
Okay.
But I have one more question.
One more.
Is it true, is my understanding correct that at any point there is some pastime of Krishna happening in a parallel universe at all times?
Are you clear what you're asking? Because I'm not.
Um,
Krishna's pastimes are eternal. They don't stop. So if you're asking, are Krishna's pastimes eternal and they don't stop? The answer is yes. So is there somewhere where Krishna's pastimes are occurring? Yes, They're eternal, they don't stop. They're prakat or aprakat, but they don't stop.
And my a follow-up to that would be, is there a repetition?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So in that case, and the reason why I'm asking this is because Krishna thinks that he wants to feel this emotion and he makes this happen. So did Mother Yashoda have free will, this component of
Of
free will?
course. That without free will, how is there love? And the rerun is with variegatedness, because that's part of the pleasure of Krishna. It's not always a rerun, a didactic rerun. It's rasa, or there's a mood of love, and the mood's just like waves of a river. The river keeps flowing, and the shape of the river is always different. But the pattern of waves rising and falling and colliding with other waves and so on is the pattern. There's a variety of waves. Unlimited variety of waves, but the water keeps running. The river water keeps flowing. Over here.
So Krishna is self-satisfied, and Krishna also has unfulfilled desires. When we hear
Wait. The unfulfilled desires. Do you want to edit that at all?
That's how I heard it. Krishna had an unfulfilled desire, and therefore there was an arrangement for Mother Yashoda to reprimand him. Maybe I heard it wrong.
Well, okay, but let's qualify the unfulfilled desire idea, because Krishna's Atmarama. If that's where your question's coming from.
I was going to ask, is the way to understand this apparent contradiction is Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva? Or that's what the question.
It's Krishna's Shaktis are fulfilling his desires. So it's not an unfulfilled desire. It's Krishna's Shaktis fulfilling Krishna's desires. He's full, and Krishna's Shaktis are fulfilling Krishna's desires. He's not a stone. So it's the answer is not exactly Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. The answer is unlimited and inconceivable potencies acting according to Krishna's desire.
So it's almost that Krishna is actually fulfilling the desires of the potencies. Like
Yes.
they're doing the service.
Well, you can that's an interesting turnaround. The desires are fulfilling, the Shaktis are fulfilling Krishna's desires. Krishna is fulfilling the Shaktis' desires. They don't have independent desires. They're dependent desires. And Krishna is the emanating source of Icha. They don't have independent Icha. They fulfill Krishna's desires. That's the spiritual realm. They're not competitor, desiring for entities. And Krishna's got, okay, you guys, let's figure out something that you can be satisfied. Because I'm your servant. Now, he may have some transcendental emotion that, it's inconceivable. That's fine. But, the pattern is his Shaktis move according to his desire, not the other way around.
This is so inconceivable. I'm finding it humorous trying to even just understand something that's inconceivable.
I just spent a bunch of time going over this chapter 77, and I can send you the commentaries where this topic is touched on, but in each of those pastimes it's touched on again and touched on again. It's a nature, janma karma chime divyam, evam yoveti tattvataha. It's an essential ingredient, element of understanding the transcendental nature of Krishna's activities is to understand even these things that are seemingly contradictory. Like Queen Kunti in her prayers. You're the unborn, but you take birth. And so there's contradictory, apparently. So what's going on? Is it this or is it that? There's lots of those things, apparent contradictions. So how to understand apparent contradictions? Simple. Not just a Chinta Veda Veda Tattva. It's the absolute truth is a person, and that person has unlimited and inconceivable potencies. Both. Unlimited and so inconceivable is cause and effect. But there isn't cause and effect. He's the cause, and there's effect. It's not, the energies move according to the indication of the energetic, and it's unlimited and inconceivable. So it's a fundamental principle. Mm-hmm. Here's how Jiva Goswami expresses it in Bhagavad Sandarbha. Same thing. There's no question of understanding God without accepting He has unlimited and inconceivable potencies. Conversely, if one accepts that God has unlimited, or Bhagavan has unlimited and inconceivable potencies, then everything can be understood. The inconceivable can be understood based upon unlimited and inconceivable potencies, and they move according to His Icha. How powerful is His Icha? Nothing can stop it. Nothing can start it. He's fully independent. Okay, He's fully independent. Then how does He place Himself dependent upon His devotee? Because that's one of His desires, His loving nature. He loves that more than I'm the boss. I'm the Ishvara, and you're down there somewhere. Got it? So it's not like that. It's the nature of the love in Vrindavan in particular is it's filled with mystery. And how to unravel the mystery, unlimited and inconceivable potencies.
This is helpful. I think my tendency is to think that, I'm not qualified to understand this, or I'm incapable of.
And you can check out. That's okay.
Okay.
And you hit, or just hit the pause button. Like we read twice, Gargi said, maybe someday I'll understand these things. Mm-hmm. I heard this from my father, and it must be true. He said this, he said that, he said the other thing, and it must be true. Maybe someday I'll be qualified to understand it. She's not throwing her hands up in the air and saying, There's so many things that to understand, as the Bhagavatam is inviting us to understand, or as our acharyas are helping us to further understand, and to not understand, it's just fine. And we just keep being inquisitive and wanting to understand, being patient. But make sure at least the fundamentals are there, unlimited and inconceivable potencies. Mm-hmm. And then, as you said from yesterday's discussion, the fallback is, He's my Lord and Master. My capacity is insufficient to understand all of this. Nonetheless, He's my Lord and Master. And by that purification and acceptance of the servant and subordinate position, then slowly, things can be revealed. But it's not Krishna's obliged because we stamp our foot saying, I want to know, or else.
There is a question
Okay.
online. Amara Devidasi asks, there is always a dynamics or confusion goes on depending on situations. On Krishna is SPG, and he is
Krishna is what? SPZ?
Supreme Personality of God.
Oh, okay.
And he is the closest friend to Bhagavad Gita 5:29. There are expectations or familiarity sometimes from a friend, but also reverence for God. How to understand this relationship and how to act properly in this relationship?
I don't understand the question. Do you understand the question? Say it differently, don't just read it back.
I think what Mataji is trying to ask is, Bhagavad Gita 5:29 says that Krishna is our closest friend,
Yeah.
but we have to treat him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
That's friendship.
Um,
It's not speaking about rasa, it's speaking about magnanimity towards others. The father is the best friend of his family. But he's the father. But he's best friend. There's roles, but best friend. Krishna's like that. The father of all living entities. And he had so many varieties of expressions of being the father of the, and those varieties are there for his enjoyment, not for ours. Shri the Prabhupada Ki Jai.